This is why I believe in demonic territories, and let me tell you, truth is stranger than fiction. I'm a travel nurse, and let me tell you about my last full-length travel contract. So I get a contract offer and I do my research. If you don't know, as a traveler, a lot of times you don't really interview for these positions. They just basically take your resume. Now, my name on paper looks like a non-black name, so sometimes I end up in some strange situations. Is they'll pull my application and hire me thinking that I am a white woman. Needless to say, although the demographics of the city looked good, it was 50% black, it was extremely segregated. Evidently, my contract was on the non-black side of town. Needless to say, everybody in the hospital was extremely racist, and they were blatantly racist. Now, I've been in much worse situations, so I decided to thug it out and just get through the contract, because it was the highest paying contract I could find at the time. And at the time, I was chasing money because I thought money equals security. You've heard me talk about that in my previous videos on dating wealthy men, blase blase. I was also going through a transition period during this contract, like at a soul level. In a nutshell, maybe my spiritual gifts were being upgraded. And then I go into the city where I start having a lot of weird experiences. So like the whole time I'm there, I'm having visions and vivid dreams, which I've always had premonitions my entire life since I was a kid. But these seemed a little bit different because I kept seeing death. Not only that, I was seeing actual cold cases. Like I was seeing people who had passed on. I was able to see their relatives grieving over them. I was able to see what people thought their cause of death was, and then I was able to actually see their cause of death. And I was seeing people like in their final moments before they passed away. It was terrible. If y'all know, there's a girl with the same name as me named Sade in this same area who was dismembered by a non-black person after they went on a date. I actually saw that before it happened from her perspective. I'm telling you this to give you an example of how intense visions can be. So boom, I'm having all these vivid dreams. I'm seeing all these cold cases. I'm seeing a lot of death. But I'm thinking it's a coincidence. I'm showing up to work every day. I'm doing my job. One day I'm in the ICU and I noticed there's this picture on the wall. It was kind of giving me the heebie-jeebies. I felt like the man in the picture was actually staring at me. Like I felt like his eyes were following me on the picture. So finally I asked the staff, like, hey, why do y'all have a picture of a man hanging in the ICU? Because if you work in a hospital, you know usually like the pictures are on the first level down a long hall with all the credentials and all the history. So like, why do y'all have this huge frame of this man hanging in the ICU? Long story short, they say that he used to be the director or the intensivist there, and he left work one night, got on the highway, and got decapitated by a tire that popped off an 18-wheeler. And they said it was just so weird because if he had left just 3 seconds later, he'd still be alive because it was a very precise incident. Okay, so yeah, like some Final Destination stuff in real life. There was also a time where I went to another floor looking for a vending machine in that hospital. And when I got off the elevator, the floor that I walked into was completely unrenovated. So it's like I stepped back into the 70s, quite literally. There was not a soul on the hallway, on the floor. I walked down the hallway and I got up out of there because it was just giving me the creeps. And I just figured, like, you know, the hospital had some financial issues. Maybe they couldn't afford to renovate this specific floor. But it was like walking in a time portal or into a time machine. They did have some past due bills. And so if you don't know, hospitals, when they have past due bills, sometimes the equipment will stop working. Things like the glucometers will stop. The beds will start being taken back because most beds are rentals. And then sometimes the computer software will stop syncing with the different devices. So I chopped it up to that. Cool. Where things kind of took a turn for the left is there was this nurse that worked there. Very young, nice looking young man. But he made the hair stand up on the back of my neck. He quite literally gave me Ted Bundy vibes, and I would feel sick to my stomach when he would come around me. So he's giving me a report one day, and I'm like literally rushing him through report because I'm like, hey, I can just check the chart because this is how sick he's making me. So he's handing off this patient to me. I take care of her. He comes back the next day. I hand off to him. Long story short, this patient ends up saying that she was SA'd by him. The backstory on her was she was found down at a party and had to be intubated and brought in. Now, there was a lot of drama around this for me because I was advocating for her. They did not have her adequately sedated. She was tied down in restraints and given only propofol with no fentanyl and no Versed. Propofol is a hypnotic agent. It doesn't do anything for pain or anything to keep you comfortable when you have a tube down your throat. I blew the whistle several times and said that it was cruel and inhumane to have somebody intubated that way. But this is a very racist hospital. And again, this patient is black, and I'm the only black nurse in the whole hospital. So they did ignore me. But when the woman starts waking up, coming off the propofol after suffering and bucking and suffering and coughing against the vent and fighting the vent, she manages to mouth over her tube that she was raped. And she says this to her boyfriend. Now, the hospital, instead of doing a proper investigation, They basically tell the family they're banned from coming into the room or into the ICU due to some mysterious protocol. They then brought in some security, and yes, this patient was black. Whole hospital was white. They brought in this security guard to interrogate her to the point of tears and try to convince her to change her statement and say that she was lying. Now, the thing about this is she said that the nurse who gave me the heebie-jeebies, she actually was claiming that he was the one who assaulted her. And another thing, if you don't know, whenever there's an allegation of rape, you are entitled to certain things by law. One of them are prophylactic pills to prevent or treat STDs, and a fair investigation, and possibly rape kit. The hospital was not wanting to give her any of those things to the point where we end up having to blow the whistle to get the doctor to write the order. She eventually gets her pills, I give them to her, and the staff is literally like berating her. The men are going in and out of her room. They're lying. They're saying all type of stuff. They're calling her all type of names. They're saying, we knew somebody like her was going to lie and say rape. She's just a crackhead who's trying to get hospital money from the hospital. And for a man to say, I knew she was going to cry rape is really weird. Because what it was is honestly, the girl had a very beautiful and a very shapely body. So for you to say you knew she was going to accuse you of rape means maybe you were thinking about it while you were taking care of her, which is also really weird. Needless to say, I pretty much started guarding her door and wouldn't let anybody in her room. Because I was like, when it comes to rape victims, men are not even supposed to be in her room, so why are y'all coming in and out of her room? And they just talking loud, ignoring her. Whenever she heard her call, like, they wouldn't respond, they wouldn't go to her room, they wouldn't give her water, they wouldn't give her clean sheets, nothing. I'm basically guarding this patient until she discharges because I'm worried that they gonna off her or something. And when she gets ready to go home, I remember her telling me, like, hey, I know they've been trying to make me out to be crazy and stuff, but I really appreciate you because I know you've been protecting me. And she said, even when I was still waking up off the anesthesia and off the meds, I remember you being there, and I remember you having your chair in front of my door. And I was like, I really appreciate that, and I wish you well. What ends up happening is because I was the only one that, I guess, I had no issue taking care of her, so they had assigned her to me. Where it gets weird again is one day they called me in the middle of the night and asked me could I come in to work. They were short-staffed and they needed me to cover the admissions. I agreed to it, but I had a really ominous feeling in my stomach, like I felt like impending doom. So I changed my whole routine that I do when I go to work for safety, and I prayed the whole way I was driving to work, and I asked God to protect me from all things seen and unseen. And I asked God to order my steps so that I can make it back home safely. And then I dropped my location to my family and told them I was going into work just in case something happened to me. Because again, I just had a bad feeling. But I go to work and I do my shift. The patient who said she was raped, they end up, downgrading her so she was able to be discharged, and nothing happened. I went back home. When I woke up to a call from my agency basically letting me know that I had been terminated. My contract was terminated, which is upsetting as it was. I was like, well, I asked God to protect me, so maybe that is the answer to my prayer. So instead of them reassigning me to another hospital, I just asked them to just let me go home. And they was cool with that. So for clarity, a day after the patient gets downgraded and prepared for discharge, they terminated my contract. As soon as they terminated my contract, I got up and started packing all my bags. I had my whole hotel room, whole suite packed up in under an hour. Because again, I still felt like this impending doom, like something was wrong. I get on the road, and as I get on the road, I sense in my spiritual eye, I guess you can say, that there was 4 angels assigned to me when I got in my truck. There was one on each corner of my truck, 4 of them. Like a security detail, like they were guiding me out of the area. And I remember specifically when I crossed over into a certain geographical region, I heard a very clear voice say to me, you got it from here. And it was like the 4 angels dispersed. I was like, got it from here. What were they protecting me from? Or why were they guiding me? Or why were they escorting me? What danger was I in? When I thought back on the fact that the whole hospital conspired against this lady who said that she had been assaulted, and that their previous director died like in some Final Destination stuff, and that I was quite literally having vivid visions of cold cases that happened, and maybe they happened in the area, I don't know. And then I do a protection prayer and my contract gets terminated the next day, not even 24 hours later. And then I sense entities helping escort me out of this area, and they dispersed once I crossed over into a certain region. I don't know. All those things combined are why I believe in demonic territories. And I just can't get over the fact that how does that many evil people all group up in the same place? Oh, right, because when good people come, they run them out of their territory. So anyway, that's my story. If you have a similar story or experience, then be sure to drop it below in the comment section. I'll see y'all in the next video. Bye.